Good morning. Welcome in, and I hope you had a great weekend. We're going to continue with our Greece unit. We're going to take a look at Athens and Sparta and the value of city states today. So, remember, again, we just kind of got an introduction with our first discussion. We took a look at the geography of Greece, we took a look at why they wanted to become an empire, and we took a look at their mythology and their worship of their gods and how important that was. Also, looking at myths and essentially their stories. So that was what we looked at in the first section. Today we're going to go a little bit more in depth, and we're definitely going to get into Athens versus Sparta. So we're going to talk about each of those city-states. Okay? So let's open up here and let's talk about rule and order in the Greek city-states. So around 750 BC, the city-state or polis was the fundamental political unit in ancient Greece. All right, a polis, all right, was made up of a city and its surrounding countryside, which included numerous villages. Okay, so you've probably seen polis in other areas. Minneapolis, Indianapolis, all right, that polis is a part of those city root words, and that's what we're looking at here. So, citizens in ancient Greece would gather at the agora. This is the marketplace. They would gather at the agora, or they would gather on a fortified hilltop called an acropolis. Okay, so that's essentially a city on a hill. Okay. All right, let's take a look at Greek political structures. All right, Greek city-states had many different forms of government. All right, some would use a monarchy. You'd have a king, or in some instances, a queen in position. You would have them lead the people. Others adopted essentially this concept of aristocracy or uh, aristocracy, I should say. This was a government led by a small group of noble landowning families. All right, these rich families had political power, and it was vast. This political power went across the Mediterranean and into other areas of influence. All right, over time, what we see are oligarchies, and these are essentially governments that are ruled by a few powerful people. Okay, so with an aristocracy, it kind of morphs into an oligarchy. All right. Lastly, powerful individuals who crave power, all right, for themselves became known as tyrants. All right. Most tyrants were not as cruel as they are in modern times. So these tyrants were a little bit more lenient, a little bit more forgiving. However, they still wanted that power for themselves. All right. And you look at the root word there, the prefix ty, and we think tyrannical, we think Tyrannosaurus rex, that's terrible lizard. All right, so terrible is often synonymous with the word tyrant. Okay? All right, so big dinosaur fan. All right, here we go. Athens is what we're going to look at first, and they're going to build on this notion of democracy. Okay? In Athens, several skirmishes between the rich and the poor led to reforms, or they're having to change their government constantly. A reform is, hey, we got to make an adjustment. Things aren't working. We got to fix this. All right. Under these reforms, Athenians moved toward democracy. All right. This is rule by the people. All right. Citizens actively participated in the decision making. So, in this instance, people would have the ability to vote. All right. In 621 BC, Draco believed that all Athenians, all right, regardless of social status, were equal under the law. Okay, criminals were often dealt with harsh punishments for their crimes. All right, Solon is going to be a leader. It's going to end slavery in Athens around 594 BC. All right, he ranked Athenians into four wealth categories. All right, with the top three having political power. However, the fourth and the lowest wealth class could still participate in voting. All right. Um, let's kind of backtrack though and understand this. In these Athenian democracies, all right, uh, men are voting. Women are not included in this time. Okay, so women are not included in the decision-making process. Okay, so keep that in mind for Athens. We're going to take a look at Sparta in just a moment. Okay, so let's talk about Athenian education. Okay, for the most part, only wealthy families received formal education. All right, schooling began around the age of 7 and was mostly designed to help boys become model citizens. Yeah, they wanted men to be upstanding individuals. They wanted men to be cordial and be polite and respectful. That's what the Athenian way was. Okay, studies include grammar, poetry, history, mathematics, and music. Okay, boys receiving training on logic and public speaking to prepare for debates that would occur in the assembly. So a lot of it was geared toward, hey, you're going to have a political career. You're going to have a role in our government. We want to teach that. We want you to hone your skills. We want you to develop. And that's what the goal was. Okay? Boys would also train athletically and prepare for defending Athens through military school. So defending if needed. All right? Athenian girls did not attend school. All right? They were restricted to a life at home. And again, the typical role of the time was that women would have the role of cooking, cleaning, raising the children, and other skills to help them become good wives and good mothers. So again, a huge disparity here between men and women. Women are essentially restricted and put into these roles at home. All right, men are being pushed through school and in hopes of becoming either in the military or becoming a politician. Okay, that's Athens though. We're going to take a look at Sparta. Sparta's a lot different. So Sparta was nearly cut off from the rest of Greece. Okay, this is located on the Peloponnesus. Sparta was isolated by the Gulf of Corinth. Okay, so it's kind of on its own area. All right, this allowed Sparta to evolve into a military state. It is a military-based city-state. Around 725 BC, Sparta conquered. So again, this whole notion of empire expansion. The neighboring Messenia, the Messenians became the Helots. Okay, these were peasants that were forced to stay on the land and work. So Helots were they're going to often rise up and they're going to revolt against the Spartans because they were not happy with how the Spartans ruled them. Okay, Spartans, however, did have an organized government. All right, the Council of Elders. So an elder is somebody that's been around the block for a while. Okay, in this instance, it was men who were in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and up. All right, they would propose laws that members of the assembly, which is another part of their government, would vote on. 2 kings would essentially rule over Sparta's military operations. Remember, it's a war-based culture. It's a simplistic war-based culture. Okay, now let's talk about their daily life. All right, Spartans, because of this militarism, they would essentially not value the arts. They would not value literature. They would not value intellectual pursuits. They were more regulated to the farm. They were more about providing for the family and fighting at all costs. So even right at the young age, they're going right into combat, and that's something we're going to talk about in just a moment. All right. So Spartans are going to value duty, honor, strength, and discipline over freedom, individuality, beauty, and learning. Okay. Boys are going to begin military training at the young age of 7 that would essentially last until the age of 60. So you're going to serve essentially 53 years of your life as a Spartan warrior. Okay? Marching, exercising, fighting, and training were daily routines. Okay? In the old myth, if you guys have seen the film 300, and there is some historical evidence to this, is that Spartans, if a baby was not deemed to be worthy enough, they would essentially leave it on a cliffside and abandon the baby and abandon the child because they were not deemed fit enough to become a warrior. So that was the intense part of their culture. Spartan women, all right, also would have intense military training. As adults, women would run the family while their husbands would be away at war. So if they were in their battles or out across the way in ancient Greece and fighting, women had a major role at home, and they essentially became the de facto leader in that particular area. All right, understand this: Spartan women had more freedoms than women in Athens. Okay, they were allowed to make their voice heard, and again, they had leadership roles when the men were away at war. Okay, so you have 2 very distinct, very different city-states. Okay, one valuing education and democracy, the other valuing war, farming, and providing for the family. So again, they're going to be very distinct, very different, and we're going to talk about these 2 clashing in a little while. We're going to talk about that in our upcoming discussions. All right? So That's an intro to Athens and Sparta. And again, there's going to be a journal log that'll follow up. We're all set today, guys. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you around.